We were the power couple, the ones people envied, admired, speculated about. My wife, Emily, was a Hollywood actress turned producer, running her own successful production company. I was a financial mogul, managing multi-million-dollar portfolios, and making headlines in the business world. We had it all: money, influence, connections. No kids, no domestic obligations, just an empire we built together. Our marriage wasn't conventional, but it worked. We weren't saints, and we both knew it. Flings happened, but emotion stayed out of it. That was the rule. No attachments, no messy affairs. It kept things interesting, kept the fire burning. Or so I thought. Emily traveled constantly for work. Movie sets, press tours, international meetings. She was always on the move. We had our routine: sporadic FaceTime calls, affectionate but business-like texts, rare weekends together. I didn't question it. Until my attorney, Daniel, walked into my office one afternoon with a look that made my gut tighten. "You should see this," he said, sliding a folder across my desk. I flipped it open. Bank statements, transactions, a hefty $200,000 transfer from Emily's company to an auto repair shop in a small town across the country. Odd. Even odder was the second document, a legal agreement where she personally guaranteed a $20,000 loan for the shop's owner. I leaned back. "The hell is this?" Daniel exhaled, clasping his hands together. "That's what I was hoping you'd tell me, but there's more." He pulled out another paper, a mortgage approval. The auto shop guy had secured a house, thanks to Emily's financial backing. Something twisted in my stomach. She's backing some random mechanic's business and helping him get a house? That doesn't sound like Emily. Daniel studied me. "You sure he's random?" I clenched my jaw. Emily was meticulous with money. Every investment, every donation, strategic, calculated. She didn't throw cash around unless there was a reason. I pushed the papers away. Maybe it's some charity thing, or she owes him a favor. Daniel didn't blink. "The shop's in the same town where she's filming right now." My hands curled into fists. I wasn't the jealous type. If Emily had a one-night thing, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. But this wasn't casual. This was money, houses, guarantees. This was personal. I needed answers. I hired a private investigator, a guy named Craig, discreet, efficient. I fed him the details: the shop, the owner, Emily's financial ties. 3 days later, he called. "Got something. Your wife's filming?" "Yeah, but she's also listed as a resident at the address on that mortgage." My chest tightened. "You're telling me she officially lives there?" "On paper, yeah. No filing for separation, no divorce papers, but it's not a temporary lease, man. And she's not just stopping by. She stays there. A lot." My pulse pounded. "Give me a few more days," Craig said. "I'll get you photos, more details." I ended the call and stared at my phone, my mind racing. Emily and I had an understanding. Flings were fine. This wasn't that. This was something else. And for the first time in years, I had no idea what the hell my wife was thinking. I barely slept that night. I kept running through possibilities, scenarios where this wasn't as bad as it looked. Maybe she was helping out a friend. Maybe she had a business interest I wasn't aware of. But my gut told me otherwise. Craig called again 2 days later. "I've got pictures. You're going to want to see these." He emailed them over. Emily, standing, next to a man in front of the auto shop, laughing, her hand on his arm. Later, another photo, her leaving the house, his house, wearing casual clothes, looking comfortable, like she belonged there. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Craig's voice was careful. "It's not just money, boss. She's with him, living with him. It's more than just a fling." I stared at the images, my pulse pounding in my ears. Emily wasn't just screwing this guy. She was building a life with him, and I was the last to know. I didn't confront her right away. I wanted to see how far she'd go with the lies. That night I called her. Emily picked up after 3 rings, her voice casual. "Hey, baby. How's work?" I stared at the photo on my screen, her stepping out of his house, hair damp like she'd just showered. Same old. "How's filming?" I asked, my tone neutral. She sighed. "Exhausting. I barely get any sleep. The schedule is brutal." A lie. She wasn't sleep-deprived. She wasn't trapped on set for 18-hour days. She was living a double life, and I was the idiot playing along. I forced a chuckle. "Yeah, I bet. Where are you now?" "Hotel," she answered smoothly. "Ran back during a break to rest a bit. You know how it is." My grip tightened on the phone. Another lie. She wasn't in a hotel. She was in his house. "Yeah, I know," I said. "I miss you." Emily hesitated. "I miss you too." For the first time in years, I realized how empty those words were. I let the conversation end without pressing her further. I needed more proof, more certainty. The next morning, Craig called again. "She's not being subtle, man." "What, now?" She transferred half her business shares to him. I felt my stomach drop. "Excuse me?" "Legal paperwork was filed yesterday. She made him a beneficiary." I inhaled slowly, my fingers digging into my desk. "You're telling me she just handed over a piece of her company?" "Yup, and it gets worse." Craig hesitated. "I ran a deeper background check on this guy. His name's Mark Hastings. No criminal record, just a regular blue-collar guy. Owned the shop for years." But here's the kicker. His financials were a mess before Emily stepped in. She paid off his debts. She put him in a house. She built him a future. I exhaled sharply. She's setting herself up to leave me. That's what it looks like. Craig was right. She wasn't just cheating. She was cutting ties, tying up loose ends, preparing for an exit strategy while keeping me in the dark. I clenched my jaw, my mind spinning. Emily was smart. She knew if she divorced me with her company under her name, I'd get a share. But if she signed it over before leaving, it was no longer an asset of hers. It was his. She was wiping me out of her life, and she thought I wouldn't notice. I wasn't stupid. I knew exactly what was happening. But I wanted to see how far she'd take this. 2 nights later, I booked a flight. I didn't tell Emily. I didn't tell anyone. I just got on a plane and headed straight to the town where she was supposedly filming. Craig met me at the airport. "You sure you want to do this?" I ignored the question. "Take me there." We drove in silence, the weight of what I was about to see pressing on my chest like a boulder. It was late when we pulled up to the house, the one Emily had signed off on. Her car was parked outside, lights were on. I watched the door for a long moment before pulling out my phone. I called her. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Hey, love," she said, her voice light, unaware of how close I was. "What's up?" I looked at the house, at the windows. "Where are you?" She didn't miss a beat. "Hotel. Just got back from set." I felt a cold, almost clinical, sense of detachment settle over me. "That's funny," I said, "because I'm looking at your car right now, and you're not at a hotel." Silence. Then a sharp inhale. "Wait. What?" I hung up, then I stepped out of the car. Craig stayed back as I walked up the driveway. My heart wasn't pounding. My hands weren't shaking. I was too numb for that. I knocked once. A moment later, the door opened, and there she was, Emily. Barefoot, wearing nothing but a loose t-shirt. The kind you throw on when you're comfortable. The kind that wasn't mine. Her face went pale when she saw me. "Hey," I said, voice eerily calm. "Want to tell me what the hell's going on?" Behind her, I heard movement. Then Mark appeared, shirtless, barefoot. He froze when he saw me. Emily swallowed hard. "I can explain." I stepped inside without waiting for permission. The house was small, cozy, lived in. It smelled like her perfume. There were pictures on the mantel, of them, not of me. This wasn't just an affair. This was her new life. "Jesus," I muttered, rubbing a hand over my jaw. "You weren't even trying to hide it, were you?" Emily reached for me, but I stepped back. "Don't," I said coldly. "Just don't." Mark cleared his throat, shifting uncomfortably. "Look, man, I didn't—" I cut him off with a sharp laugh. Oh, shut the hell up. Emily flinched. It's not what you think. I let out another dry laugh. Oh, no? So you didn't transfer your business to him? You didn't buy him a house? You didn't move in with him while still calling me every night pretending everything was fine? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I shook my head. You know, I could have forgiven a one-night stand. Hell, I could have forgiven a dozen one-night stands. But this? I gestured around. This is a whole goddamn double life. Tears welled up in her eyes. I didn't mean... I don't care, I snapped. You made your choice, Emily. You chose him. Silence stretched between us, and then Mark, this clueless idiot, had the audacity to step forward. I love her, he said, as if that meant anything to me. I turned to Emily, staring straight into her tear-filled eyes. Then I hope he was worth it. I walked out. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. I just left. But Emily had no idea what was coming next, because if she thought she could just walk away from me unscathed, she was dead wrong. I didn't rush my revenge. That would have been too easy, too impulsive. No, I was going to be patient, precise, ruthless. Emily thought she had outmaneuvered me. She thought she was safe, tucked away in her little fantasy with Mark, living in a house I unknowingly helped finance, running a company she assumed I could no longer touch. She was wrong. The night I left that house, I didn't look back. I didn't call. I didn't text. I went straight to the airport, booked a red-eye flight home, and sat in silence the entire way, running through every move I needed to make. By the time I landed, I had a plan. Emily built her success on connections. Hollywood wasn't just about talent. It was about who you knew, who you could trust, and more importantly, who could trust you. And I was about to make sure no one trusted her again. The morning after my return, I met with my legal team. Find a way to expose her business dealings, I told them. Every shady investment, every misstep. I want it out in the open. Daniel, my attorney, raised an eyebrow. That could hurt your own reputation. I leaned forward. I don't care. I want every deal scrutinized, especially the financial transfer to Mark Hastings. Make sure the media finds out she funneled money to a nobody mechanic while claiming company funds were for business investments. Daniel hesitated. She'll spin it as philanthropy, I smirked. Not when they find out she transferred ownership before she could be legally audited. Make sure that detail is emphasized. And just like that, the whispers started. Industry insiders began questioning Emily's stability. Investors hesitated. Clients withdrew interest. Within a week, the media picked up on it. Hollywood powerhouse. Emily Carter accused of fraudulent. Business. Transfer secretive financial dealings. Shake Emily Carter's production company headlines spread like wildfire. She tried to do damage control, of course, posted some vague statement about misunderstandings and legal processes. But the damage was done. Studios didn't want to work with her. Investors backed out, and I wasn't finished. Emily thought she had secured her assets by transferring ownership to Mark. She forgot one crucial thing. Mark was an idiot. A week after the scandal broke, I made my next move. I sent one of my financial analysts to pose as a buyer interested in acquiring Mark's auto shop. Mark, desperate for a way to keep up with his newfound expenses, agreed to a meeting. Make him an offer, I told my guy. A ridiculous one. More money than he's ever seen. Mark, being exactly as dumb as I expected, took the bait, sold the shop. The moment the deal was finalized, my team exposed the sale to the press. Mechanic lover cashes out. Did Emily Carter pay for her affair? Suddenly, Emily wasn't just dealing with career fallout. She was humiliated on a public scale. And Mark? He went from being her escape plan to a liability overnight. The second he got a taste of real money, he ran. Left her in that house alone. Exactly. As I predicted, she still had one last thing. Her name. Emily Carter was a brand. A name attached to prestige, talent, and wealth. So I made sure that name was dragged through the mud. I had my PR team reach out to every major media outlet. Leaks about her unprofessionalism, her financial instability, her desperation to cling to relevance. Suddenly, no one wanted to hire her. No one wanted to work with her. Deals evaporated. Contracts got pulled. She went from Hollywood elite to radioactive. 2 weeks after I started dismantling her life, I got a text from her. Emily, we need to talk. I let her wait 3 days before responding. Me. About what? She called immediately. I let it ring. Then, on the second attempt, I picked up. Her voice was raw, desperate. You're destroying me. I leaned back in my chair, staring out the window. No, Emily. You destroyed yourself. She let out a shaky breath. This isn't fair, I laughed. Actually laughed. Fair? You moved in with another man while calling me your husband. You lied to my face for months. You planned your exit while smiling at me like nothing was wrong. And now, because I'm not letting you walk away unscathed, you're talking about fair? Silence. Then, softly. I didn't mean to hurt you. I closed my eyes for a moment, absorbing the weight of it all. Then, with complete calm, I said the words I had been holding on to since the night I found out the truth. I would have forgiven you for anything, Emily. Anything. If it was just sex, I could have moved past it. But this? The lying, the planning, the emotional betrayal, that's what I can't forgive. A choked sob. I love him, she whispered. I let that hang between us. Then, in the coldest voice I'd ever used, I replied, then I hope he was worth it. And I hung up. The storm had passed. Emily was done. Hollywood had discarded her like old news. The headlines that once praised her brilliance now labeled her a scandal. The studios that once fought for her attention now refused to return her calls. She was irrelevant. Mark left her 2 weeks after the sale of the shop, took his money and ran, just like I knew he would. He was never built for the life she wanted, and once things got tough, he did what weak men do. He disappeared. Now, Emily was alone. I knew this because I made sure of it. I had Craig check in, just to satisfy my own curiosity. He sent me a picture. Emily, walking out of a cheap apartment building in L.A. She had lost the house. Couldn't keep up with the mortgage, not with her assets frozen and no steady income. She looked different. Hollow. Like she hadn't slept in weeks. I should have felt satisfied, maybe even triumphant. But the truth was, I just felt nothing. Not regret. Not guilt. Just emptiness. I got what I wanted. I ruined her. Not just professionally, not just financially. I made sure she had nothing left. She thought she could erase me, cut me out of her life without consequence. She thought I would let her walk away, start over with another man while keeping everything she built with me. She was wrong. You don't get to build an empire with someone, betray them, and walk away unscathed. A month later, she called again. Almost ignored it, but a part of me wanted to hear her voice one last time. I answered. She hesitated, like she wasn't sure I'd actually pick up. Then, softly, "Hey." I didn't reply, just waited. She exhaled. I don't know where to start. Start with why you're calling. A pause. Then, I guess I just wanted to know if you still hate me. I thought about that for a moment. Hate was such an intense word, such a strong emotion. I don't hate you, Emily. My voice was calm, even. I don't feel anything for you at all. She sucked in a breath like I had punched her. I deserve that. Silence stretched between us. Then, you really planned all of this, didn't you? I let out a dry laugh. What did you think was going to happen? That you could just walk away, start a new life, and I'd do nothing? No, she whispered. I thought you'd fight for me. That hit me in a way I didn't expect. I clenched my jaw. I did fight for you, Emily, for years. And you let me believe we were on the same side. That's the difference between us. I was fighting for us. You were fighting to get away. She didn't argue. She knew I was right. I let the silence sit for a moment before speaking again. Why him? She hesitated. I don't know. Bullshit. She let out a choked laugh. Maybe because he made me feel normal, like I wasn't just Emily Carter, the actress, the producer, the brand. He didn't care about all that. He just liked me. I nodded, even though she couldn't see it. And was it worth it? A beat. Then, so quietly I almost didn't hear it, no. I closed my eyes. I should have felt satisfaction, should have felt something. But all I felt was exhaustion. I exhaled. Goodbye, Emily. She let out a shaky breath. Goodbye. And then I ended the call. For the last time. A week later, I saw the final nail in her coffin. Emily Carter files for bankruptcy. She had no more assets, no more income, no one would hire her. She was done. I sat in my office looking at the news on my screen, and for the first time in months, I let myself breathe. I wasn't happy. This wasn't about happiness. This was about justice. About making sure she knew, down to her very core, that she never should have betrayed me. Some men get cheated on and move on. I made sure she never could. And as I closed my laptop, I realized the truth of it all. I would have forgiven anything. Anything. If it had just been sex, I could have moved past it. But emotional betrayal? That I could never forgive, and neither would the world.